Hello again to this video clip series, My Journey to God in a Very Secularized World. We are going through right now meditation that Padre Cortelio Gabriele gave in 2015 before all the members of the Marimuna priests. And the title of this, that you can find also printed on the internet, is The End of the Times, the Great Trial. So now we come to the second part of the meditation, which is exactly the Great Trial. And he immediately quotes a message of Our Lady here. Our Lady says, "Prepare to live moments in which the history of the Church has never known before, and in which everything will seem subverted. But in the greatest obscurity, I will be your light and your guide. Therefore, do not fear, my beloved sons. Begin this new year with the greatest trust in my Immaculate Heart. You are called to see the greatest triumph of the mercy of God in the world." That was January 1, 78. And then another message he quotes of Our Lady. "In these times, the Church is being called to live the hour of agony and of Gethsemane, the hours of the redemptive passion, the hours of her bloody immolation on Calvary. How heavy a cross they must carry today, these most beloved children of mine, the cross of apostasy and of the lack of faith, the cross of sins and of innumerable sacrileges, the cross of abandonment and of rejection, the cross of condemnation and of crucifixion. For my Church, the moment of the shedding of blood and of her bloody immolation is close at hand. Especially in these times, I am ever close to this suffering and agonizing daughter of mine, as I was beneath the cross upon which Jesus was immolated for our redemption. Pray, beloved children, and do penance, because you have now entered into the time of the great chastisement which the Lord will send for the purification of the earth. Your suffering will increase with the increase of the trial which has already begun." And this was a message of January 191. And another message here, "The great trial has come for all of you, my poor children, so threatened by Satan and stricken by the evil spirits. Never as in your days has peace been so threatened, because the struggle of my adversary against God is becoming stronger and stronger, more insidious, continual, and universal." That was from message January 193. And then another message here from Our Lady. "This is a mystery of love and of sorrow, of light and of darkness, of joy and of suffering, of death and of light. It is a trial so great and painful that you could not even imagine it. But it is necessary for the Church and for all humanity, in order that the new era, the new world, and the reconciliation of humanity with their Lord may come upon you." That was a message of February 291. And so Cortelio says, "You have thus entered into the great trial." And so then immediately another message from Our Lady here. "The danger you are in is that of losing grace and the communion of life with God, which my Son Jesus obtained for you at the moment of redemption, when he delivered you from slavery to the evil one and set you free from sin. Now sin is no longer considered an evil. Indeed, it is often exalted as a thing of value and as something good. Recognize sin as the greatest of evils, as the source of all individual and social evils. The great trial has come for the Church, so violated by the evil spirits, so divided in its unity, so darkened in its holiness. See how error has flooded throughout it, error which leads to the loss of the true faith. Apostasy is spreading everywhere. A special gift of the Immaculate Heart for these times of yours is the Catechism of the Catholic Church, which my Pope, John Paul II, has wished to promulgate to be, as it were, his shining last testament. The hour of its great trial has above all come for the Church, because it will be shaken by the lack of faith, obscured by apostasy, wounded by betrayal, abandoned by its children, divided by schisms, possessed and dominated by Freemasonry. turned into fertile soil from which will spring up the wicked tree of the man of iniquity, the Antichrist, who will bring his kingdom into its interior. The further you enter into the time of the great trial, the more will you experience in an extraordinary way my motherly presence close to you, to help defend, protect, and console you, and to prepare for you new days of serenity and peace. That was message January 193. And then Padre Cortelius says, now allow me to let out a little steam, vent. He says, you know that Our Lady disposed things so that I might spend the last years next to Don Stefano. And I can tell you that there were many trials and sufferings that he faced for the movement. But I remember, for him, it was a great suffering when some of the leaders questioned the messages and so doubted about their veracity. In the year 2000, many leaders no longer participated in the annual retreat. Some continued but then left. I remember in this regard Gerard, Father Fabio of Salvador, a bishop of Peru, who for several years gave the beautiful meditations on the messages with the relative biblical quotations and many others. Even to this day, I think that for the movement, the moment has arrived to be ready to carry out the mission that she, the leader, asks us. We must face painful trials, because these are the times of the great battle. And he says, what does Our Lady ask us to do in these times of battle? And so then he quotes another message here. Prepare to live moments in which the history of the Church has never known before, and in which everything will seem subverted. But in the greatest obscurity, I will be your light and your guide. Therefore, do not fear. Have the greatest trust in my Immaculate Heart. You are called to see the greatest triumph of the mercy of God in the world. That was a message of January 178. And then Padre Cortelius says, here Our Lady tells us to prepare for these moments of great darkness in the Church, and we now live them in these days, in which many want to subvert the truth of the gospel. Many want to transform the faith into only pietism, ecumenism. And then he quotes another message from Our Lady. As Mother, I am always close to you, to the Church and to humanity, in order to lead you along the way of the fulfillment of the Father's will, in such a way that the most holy and divine Trinity may be more and more glorified. The fountain of your joy and your peace is to be found in the perfect glorification of the most holy Trinity. That was the message January 193. And then Padre Cortelius says, the great trial has begun because we are threatened by Satan, who makes us lose the true sense of sin. The real cause of all evil is not only spiritual but also physical. The great trial has begun especially for the Church, and Our Lady invites us to look at her. And then he quotes another message. See how error has flooded throughout her, error which leads to the loss of the true faith. Apostasy is spreading everywhere. A special gift of my Immaculate Heart for these times of yours is the Catechism of the Catholic Church, which my Pope has wished to promulgate, to be, as it were, his shining last testament. January 193. And then Padre Cortelius continues, he says, here, beloved, there is nothing left for us to do except look to Mary as Mother of God, but also as our true Mother and Mother of the Church. We are called not to be overwhelmed by lack of trust, by fear, much less by discouragement, even though we see that. And then he quotes another message from Our Lady. She says, atheism has organized itself as a force spread out for the conquest of the world, the whole world, and the complete destruction of my Church. You, my poor sons, are the ones most knocked about in a struggle which is above all between me and my adversary. Before telling you of the battle, I have, as Mother, invited you to seek a safe refuge, my Immaculate Heart. Now you understand, my sons, why it is the greatest gift which the Heavenly Mother offers you. My Immaculate Heart, it is your safest refuge, and the means of salvation which, at this time, God gives to the Church and to humanity. The special intervention of my heart, of mine, is the work which I am carrying out in my Church to call all priests, my beloved sons, to take refuge in me. This victory of mine has already begun, and soon it will shine forth upon the entire Church and upon the whole of renewed humanity. A message of December 8th, 75. We'll continue in the next video clip. May God bless you, and Mary guide you.